Hi everyone, this is the Nordic Venture Show, your guide to the exciting world of Nordic startups and venture capital. In today's episode, we're exploring a startup called Toddle.
Welcome to your deep dive, and honestly, this one has me stumped, I have to say. Toddle. The name sounds more like, I don't know, something my kid would play with. But the stuff you sent over, these articles, these notes, they paint a totally different picture. Like, this is serious web development stuff.
Yeah, Toddle is definitely not your average kid's toy, that's for sure.
No kidding. So how about you break it down for us? What exactly is Toddle, and where does it fit into everything we think we know about building for the web?
Well, at its core, Toddle is a visual web app builder, right? But it's kind of like, imagine if designing a PowerPoint, with the dragging and dropping and all, could somehow build you a fully functional website or web app. That's sort of the space Toddle is playing in, trying to make the complex stuff, the code, happen behind the scenes.
Okay, so you're saying it's like, what, bridging the gap between visual design and the hardcore stuff developers usually handle?
Exactly. They're trying to give you the power of custom code, but with a much more user-friendly approach. It's part of this whole movement we're seeing in tech, this rise of no-code or low-code platform.
Right, no code. I've heard that term thrown around. But to be honest, I always kind of tuned it out, figured it was, like, for hobbyists or something. But this Toddle thing seems way more high level. So humor me. Break down this no-code revolution thing. What's the big idea there?
Sure, so imagine this. You've got this killer app idea, right? But here's the catch. You don't know the first thing about coding. Traditionally, you'd either have to invest a ton of time learning how to code, or you're shelling out serious cash to hire developers.
Yeah, not exactly budget-friendly options, are they?
Nope, not at all.
Yeah.
And that's the problem no-code platforms like Toddle are trying to solve. They want to make it so anyone, regardless of their coding skills, can bring their ideas to life. It's all about democratizing access to technology, empowering a wider range of people to become creators, not just passive users.
Okay, I'm starting to get it. It's like giving everyone the tools to build their own digital house, even if they've never picked up a hammer before.
Exactly. And just like those prefab houses, they revolutionize home building, right?
Oh.
No code has the potential to do the same for software.
So everyone's going to be coding whizzes now, building the next Facebook in their basements.
Well, hold your horses. It's not quite that simple. While these platforms definitely lower the barrier to entry, building a successful app, especially a complex one, still requires some serious skills. You still need to think about things like user experience, design, even basic programming logic. No code isn't the magic bullet. It's more like
Yeah.
a really, really powerful set of tools.
Okay, so it's not about replacing developers entirely, but rather changing the game, giving more people a seat at the table.
You got it. And that's what makes this whole thing so fascinating to watch unfold. This shift in who gets to build the future.
Now, there was this one thing in the Toddle material that really tripped me up. Toddle is built in Toddle. Like, what does that even mean? They built the platform using the platform. Sounds a little dot circular.
This does sound kind of out there, right? But it's actually a really clever way of demonstrating what Toddle can do. Think about it. They use their own tools, the same ones available to anyone using Toddle, to build the very platform itself. That's a bold statement.
It's like a baker using their own oven to bake the cake that wins them the baking competition. It's a serious vote of confidence.
Exactly. And it makes you wonder, if they can build something as complex as Toddle using Toddle,
Right.
what's stopping someone else from using it to create the next big thing? The possibilities are huge.
I can already feel my brain going into overdrive with ideas.
And we're just getting started. Now, before we get too carried away with the possibilities, we have to address the elephant in the room. This whole no-code thing, it's not all sunshine and rainbows, is it?
You're right. There's always another side to the story. And knowing this show, we're going to dive deep into that. But we'll save that for after the break, so stick around. All right, so we're back. And we're diving headfirst into the, shall we say, controversial side of no code. What are the arguments people are throwing around?
Yeah, controversial is putting it mildly. It's like no code is this buzzword that everyone's got an opinion on. Some people, they see it as this like revolutionary force, right? Breaking down walls, giving power to the people who've traditionally been shut out of the tech world.
Yeah, that makes sense. That whole democratizing thing we were talking about. But I'm guessing not everyone's on board with that.
Oh, definitely not. There's a whole other camp who thinks no code is, well, a little overhyped. They argue that it's actually kind of a misnomer, that it downplays the real skills and knowledge you need to build, good software.
So it's like saying, hey, anyone can be a chef, just follow a recipe. But we both know there's a lot more to it than that, right?
Exactly. Knowing your way around a kitchen, understanding flavors, all that stuff matters. And it's the same with building software. Even with visual tools, you still need to grasp things like data structures, user experience, that kind of thing.
So where does that leave Toddle in all of this? Are they just glossing over those complexities?
That's the interesting thing. They're not. From what I've seen, Toddle is trying to walk this fine line. They're not just catering to the anyone can code crowd. They're actively trying to woo professional developers, too.
Okay, now that's intriguing. How so? What are they doing differently?
Well, for starters, they're not shying away from the more, shall we say, technical aspects. You're talking about server-side rendering, integration with any database, the ability to export projects as web components.
Okay, whoa. You're losing me a little bit. Can we unpack some of that? For those of us who haven't been living and breathing code for the past decade, what even is server-side rendering?
Right, sorry. It's easy to get caught up in the jargon, isn't it? So imagine you're loading a website, right? Traditionally, a lot of the work of actually putting that page together, it happens in your browser, which, if it's a simple site, no big deal. But if you've got a ton of images, videos, all that stuff.
It takes forever to load.
Exactly. And that's where server-side rendering, or SSR, comes in. It basically means a lot of that heavy lifting. It happens on the server before the website even gets sent to your browser.
So it's like pre-assembling a piece of furniture before you deliver it, instead of making the customer put it together themselves.
Perfect analogy. And just like that pre-assembled furniture, a server-side rendered website loads way faster, which in today's world is kind of a big deal.
Huge. No one's got the patience for a slow website these days.
Exactly. And it's not just about user experience either. Faster loading times can actually help with things like SEO, how well your site ranks in search results.
Right, so it's good for business too. But Toddle doesn't stop there, do they? They've also got this whole physics-based animation thing going on, and that just sounds way cooler than spreadsheets and databases.
You're telling me. This is where Toddle really lets his hair down, gets a little playful.
All right, I need an example. Give me a visual, because my brain can't handle any more abstract concepts today.
Okay, picture this. You want to animate a bouncing ball on your website, right? In the past, you'd have to painstakingly animate each frame of that bounce. But with Toddle's physics-based animations, you just tell the system, hey, this is the ball, it's this heavy, make it bounce. And the software does the rest, making it look and feel super realistic.
So less manual labor, more letting the software work its magic.
Exactly. And because these animations are based on real-world physics, they just feel more natural, more engaging. It's a whole different level of sophistication.
This is making me want to go and play with Toddle myself, I have to admit. But we haven't even touched on the data side of things yet, and I know that's a big part of any web application. You mentioned that Toddle can connect to any database. What does that even mean in plain English?
So a database, right? Think of it like a giant, super organized spreadsheet. It's where all the information for your web application lives. Product details, customer orders, inventory, you name it.
Okay, so if the database is the spreadsheet, what's Toddle's role in all of this?
Toddle's the bridge. It connects to that database, grabs the information it needs, and then lets you display it on your website in a way that actually makes sense to users. And not just display it, but let users interact with it too.
So it's like giving your website a direct line to the information it needs to function.
Exactly. And that opens up a whole world of possibilities for creating these really dynamic, personalized experiences. Think about those personalized recommendations you get on shopping sites or interactive maps that update in real time. All of that is driven by data, and Toddle gives you the tools to manage all of that without needing to be a database wizard.
It's like they took something that sounded about as exciting as watching paint dry databases, I'm looking at you, and made it, dare I say, fun.
That's the Toddle touch, I guess.
Yeah.
Taking the complex stuff and making it approachable, even enjoyable. But speaking of fun, you are not going to believe what else they've cooked up with Toddle.
Okay, now you have to tell me. You can't just leave me hanging like that.
Nope.
What could be more exciting than physics-based animations and talking to databases? Okay, you got to spill the beans. What could be more exciting than physics-based animations and talking to databases?
Well, remember how we were talking about Toddle being both powerful and fun?
Yeah.
They actually made a few things that, well, you wouldn't really expect, just to kind of show what's possible.
Okay, now you have to give me an example. My curiosity is officially piqued.
So, one of the projects they highlighted, are you ready for this, is a digital drum kit app. built entirely in Toddle.
Wait, seriously, like a full-on drum kit that you play on a website?
You got it. And I know what you're thinking sounds kind of gimmicky, right? But it actually proves a point. First of all, it shows that Toddle can be used for, well, pretty much anything. You're not limited to, like, boring business stuff.
Okay, that's cool. I do love a good side of creativity with my web development tools.
Right. But it also goes deeper than that. Remember those physics-based animations we were geeking out about?
How could I forget? It's like the coolest things in sliced bread.
Well, think about it. To make a digital drum kit feel real, to make the drums respond like the real thing, you need that physics-based animation.
I see where you're going with this. The animation has to react to touch and pressure, just like a real drum would.
Exactly. So the fact that they built something as complex and nuanced as a digital drum kit, using a visual no-code platform, it really shows you the power under the hood.
Okay, I'm sold. They could have stopped at the drum kit, and I would have been impressed. But I have a feeling they didn't stop there, did they?
You know me too well.
Yeah.
They've also been exploring some unexpected connections between, get this, Toddle and professional cycling.
Okay, now you're just messing with me. As cool as that sounds, I don't see the connection.
I know, right? Sounds kind of random. But they put out this blog post, and the title alone was intriguing. It asked, could software predict the next Tour de France champion?
Okay, that's a curveball if I've ever heard one. How does that relate to building web apps?
Well, it all comes down to data, right?
Yes.
Data analysis, predictive modeling, all that stuff that's becoming more and more important, even in web development. And the Tour de France. It's just a really fun, engaging example.
So they're basically saying, if we can analyze something as massive and complex as the Tour de France using Toddle.
Imagine what you could do with it in your own world, right?
Exactly. It's clever, I'll give them that. But all this talk about data and power and potential, it does make you wonder, are there any downsides to making it this easy for people to build applications, especially ones that handle a lot of sensitive information?
That's a really important point.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's something anyone who's even thinking about using no code needs to consider. Security, privacy, those are non-negotiables.
So it's not that no code is inherently less secure, it's more that it brings up a whole new set of challenges.
Exactly. See, with traditional coding, developers have, like, total control over every single detail, right down to the security measures. But with no code, you're putting a lot of trust in the platform provider, hoping they've got your back.
So it's all about due diligence, I guess.
Hmm.
Do your research, make sure you trust the platform you're using, especially if you're dealing with sensitive data.
Absolutely. And don't be afraid to, like, ask the tough questions. Reach out to their support team, talk to a security expert if you need to. Better safe than sorry.
Couldn't agree more. Now, before we wrap things up, I want to circle back to that no-code debate we dove into earlier. We've seen the pros, we've heard the cons, but where do you think Toddle fits into all of this?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? My take. I think Toddle is really trying to find that balance. They want to make development more accessible, more democratic, but they're not pretending that coding suddenly doesn't matter anymore.
It's like they're saying, hey, we're not trying to replace anyone. We're just trying to give everyone better tools and a chance to build something awesome.
Exactly. And I think whether no-code platforms like Toddle succeed, it all comes down to whether they can maintain that balance between power and accessibility, between pushing boundaries and, not overpromising.
Well said. It's definitely an exciting time to be following the world of web development, that's for sure. Toddle, no code, who knows what's next. But one thing's for sure, this deep dive has given us a lot to think about.
It has. And for anyone listening who's feeling that same sense of, wait, I need to know more, I highly recommend checking out the Toddle blog. Lots of cool stuff to explore in there, even if you're not a coding whiz.
Couldn't agree more. And on that note, it's time for us to wrap up this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep diving deep.
Thanks for listening to the Nordic Venture Show. Don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned for more stories of innovation from the Nordics.